Earlier this year when they released the Voyagers update, which introduced Corvettes, these big ships that you could design, build, and fly, I was blown away. But aside from being able to make some pretty cool ships, there wasn't much we could do with the new ability to exit our ship while in space. That's something that the latest update, Breach, looks to start to remedy, with some very cool new missions and experiences that lead to more Corvette parts and a huge library of additional parts to make our ships much more interesting, including an Aeron set, which is exclusive to the new expedition. And these parts are actually craftable once you learn the recipe, which marks the first time they've done this for the Corvette series at least, so I'm hoping this is a start of a new trend for parts going in the future. So let me take you through the new content and how to find it, and then if by the end you like the video, let me know by hitting that like and subscribe button if you want to see more. There are a lot of patch notes in the Breach update, but the two big things that I wanted to highlight in the video, and the reason why I wanted to do this in the first place, are the two new ways to find parts for your Corvette. One comes in the form of finding a wrecked Corvette hull that you can actually EVA out to and salvage the parts from. Now, how you find these is just by flying around space, and eventually you'll stumble upon one as an anomaly. You can also use an anomaly detector to find these, though you'll have a bunch of other things that you could find instead, so it's not a surefire thing. For some reason, the scanner modules that you can build in the expedition are not something that we can actually make on our regular saves. Once you arrive at the scanned wreck, you EVA out over to the wreck and you start scanning for the modules. Once you locate those, you simply mine them, and from those, you get a series of random parts, typically better ones than you'll find from just straight up purchasing them from the station. Offering now a much better way to get a hold of a bunch of the new parts that they've just added into the game, aside from looking for salvageable scrap on the surface of moons and planets, which can be a bit rare and troublesome to do. So this gives you one alternative to that original method. The other way is a little bit more involved and offers a lot more loot if you're willing to put in the time. Derelict freighters. Now, we've had derelict freighters in the game for some time now, but all they've been able to drop usually are just loot that you shoot with your ship and it automatically goes to your inventory. Not so with these new things. Just like with the Corvette Wrecks, you can either scan for them by crafting a scanning device, or you can just fly around and you'll potentially land upon one, which happened to me a couple times during the expedition and outside of it. Once you arrive, you can land at one of the pads or at the outer pad if you're flying in a Corvette, and then you just make your way onto the interior of the ship. There you'll arrive at a door where it'll ask you if you'd like to salvage some materials or open the airlock and gain access to the interior. Now here you're going to want to have some cold module protection on your character, as the interior of the ship and space in general is really cold. Although they do have some heater mechanics inside the ship that you can turn on if you find them to give yourself some respite from the cold, which I actually rather like, as it's a reminder that you're in space and that the environment too is actually quite dangerous. Inside, once you get past the first door, you'll go through a series of corridors and rooms as you discover more security panels where you'll unlock more of the story of the ship and actually unlock more of the ship itself. They act as a sort of pseudo-space dungeon that the deeper you go, the more loot you get, but the more dangerous it gets, having a mixture of puzzles which aren't too hard in No Man's Sky fashion, and some combat which is also not too hard, but can get a little hairy if you're not paying too much attention to how many of the vile creatures you release from blowing up their breeding sacks, let's call them. Along the way, you'll be able to get a lot of living slime, which, like I said in my starter guide, can help you make more nanites, so be sure to save those and don't throw them away, and just general loot that you can use to upgrade your gear, make some money, and if you get to the end, to be able to select whether or not you'd like some new Corvette parts. And these parts tend to be on the rarer and more interesting side, so it's definitely worth going towards the end if you want to spend the time to do this. I expect that this kind of experience is actually probably going to be a lot more fun if you've got a friend, although I did it all myself solo, so you definitely don't need to play this with other people if that's not your style. Now, I know I said that there are two new ways to get pieces, but there's actually a third way that can only be unlocked presently through the new expedition. That's through the new Aeron set, which introduces for the first time since the Voyagers update a kind of pseudo blueprint system which allows you to craft the modules from there on out without needing to find them any longer, which I'll be honest is kind of something that I prefer, although I do think it's cool that you have to find some specific pieces out in the wild. I think they could keep it that way, but I would also like to see them pursue more parts being able to be crafted directly through some kind of crafting mechanism, like they're doing with these new parts, as it definitely makes, trying to craft a specific look that you want a lot less of a headache. But I digress. Getting back to the expedition, I actually think it's a really fun thing to do for somebody who's not played a whole lot of the game recently, as it kind of forces you into trying a lot of the new features that you may have not tried yet or may not even know exist, because there's just so much that they keep adding into the game. It's frankly hard to keep track of, but in kind of the best possible way. For example, it introduces the ability for you now to enter a black hole on foot if you wanted to do that and get spaghettified, which apparently doesn't kill you. In this universe, it throws you out to some other random system, which is a pretty cool mechanic. I guess it's kind of like a wormhole in that way. Anyway, and fishing, that I haven't done yet until this expedition. I know that's not particularly new, but it was pretty fun to do that at the end as a lead up to fighting the big bad, which was really weird and funny. Clearly the developers have a sense of humor. And as you go along doing all of this, you unlock more and more pieces of the aforementioned cool Aeron set. Just don't forget to claim them from the Quicksilver vendor in the Nexus, otherwise you don't automatically get the blueprints for them. Another thing you can do is actually take some of the parts that you get from the expedition directly out from it if you didn't apply them to your ship, or you can strip your ship and just bring them with you, or fabricate the ship that you made in the expedition and get them in that way. That menu where you can transfer stuff from the expedition to your main save is found again in the Nexus where you finish the expedition, so make sure you transfer that stuff before you finish it. Once you get all the parts, you can make some pretty cool configurations. I mean, this is just based off the one that I've been showing off in a couple of videos so far, so it's not something particularly new, although I really do like how this improves the look a bit. I think that there's a lot of really cool combinations you can get from this that I'm kind of excited to explore, so I'm probably going to make a whole new Corvette based off of these parts. Overall, I think this is a fantastic addition to the game since the Voyager's update, but I still think that there's a lot left on the table that they can execute on for future updates. They've still not put in some kind of turret system that you can use with your friends so you can make these big ships a little bit more, unique in terms of combat versus the fighters we have, because right now when you fight with them in combat, they pretty much behave like regular ships, only bigger and a bit slower. Which does make it a bit strange. There's not much differentiation between these and the small ships when it comes to combat. And I'd also love to see them go back and add a docking port for freighters for Corvettes so that we have a place to land or dock with our big ships, maybe even have our own council to upgrade and modify our ships while we're on the go within our own freighter. Now, wouldn't that be cool? I mean, honestly, I could theorycraft with so many other things I could do with these ships, but that just tells you that they've got so much more mileage to get out of these things that there's a ton of updates that we can look forward to in the future. And with how fast they're executing on these ideas with this latest patch, I would not be surprised if the next update that they bring in before the end of the year adds even more things to make Corvettes even cooler. So I'm super excited to see what the community comes up with, some new combinations with all these new parts, including the Aeron set. If you've got a really cool new design that you want to show off, be sure to head on over to our Discord where you can share it with me and the rest of the community. I look forward to seeing you there. Otherwise, if you like this video, you know what to do. Hope to see you in the next one.